What's up, guys? This is Crypto with James talking to you today about the markets. We've obviously got, the tapering coming in March. So I want to talk about the historical relevance of that and some interesting stuff coming up, obviously, with the Fed. Before I do, as always, I update the spreadsheet. These are the first 26 coins I spoke about on the channel. If you invested $100 to each one when I release the videos and you're still holding that crypto, you'll be in profit for over $54,000. This isn't what I hold anymore. You want to see what I hold, come check out Copy My Crypto. We had an incredible 2021. 2022 is primed to be even better. The bull, whether it's bull cycle or bear cycle, there's going to be so many opportunities, particularly with the bear cycle. Obviously, nothing can really compare to a bear cycle. You can get in on cryptos at discount prices. I got in on Phantom at half a cent. That's still up 406 times in value. And there are a number of cryptos that are going to retrace dramatically, and watching how they develop, who they onboard, how much they retrace, all these things are important factors in deciding which coins you think can do at 50x, 100x. When I think one can, I'm going to be sharing them with the Copy My Crypto members. If you want to be a part of it, click the link in the description and check it out. All right, crypto has pretty much moved sideways for the past, like Bitcoin in particular. In the past sort of 10 days, there's literally been about 10% movement in Bitcoin from the low to where we are now. And there's a few things that people need to be aware of. So what's coming up? Firstly, the Federal Reserve obviously has a turnover of staff. So in February, Jerome Powell's term as chair expires. He has been nominated by Biden for a second term. He's also... Biden has also nominated the current Fed governor to succeed Richard Clarida for a 4-year term as a vice chair. Now, this still has to be approved by the Senate. So members of the Fed Board of Governors are chosen by the president, confirmed by the Senate. The president and the Senate have no say in picking presidents of the 12 regional Fed banks. However, they're chosen by the private sector board of directors, of course. Presidents of the regional Fed banks can serve until they're 65, unless appointed after 55. But this is one of those where I can't imagine Powell doesn't get confirmed by the Senate. So then the next step is, and that might be a sort of moment when the Senate are dealing with it, where there's a tradable event. But particularly if it ends up being a close decision, I can't imagine it will be. I think it will just be confirmed straight off the bat. But then that leads into the tapering. So you've got to bear in mind that in past corrections for the S&P are only 15% on average outside of recession. So stock markets took a big hit during the sort of week where it was building to that Fed meeting. Historical S&P corrections outside of recessions have been have seen average declines of around 15.4%. So that's resulted in actually very few bear markets in the S&P, because a bear market, people have different percentage points that they use. Some people say 25% or lower is a bear cycle. Some people say 35%. So recession wise, we've seen, you see an average of about a 36% loss. But yeah, generally, even with all the tapering, even with, the rises in interest rates and everything that the Fed are actually doing to tackle inflation, and stop buying their assets, it shouldn't actually have a dramatic effect on the market below a potentially 15% drop. That's the average. Obviously, there's been worse, but that's about the average. Now, there's an argument that the tapering could be good, right? There is genuinely an argument. So the Fed is tapering, and unlike the central bank's 2013 reduction in monthly purchases of Treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities, the stock market took it in its stride, or did it? Or when the Fed chair surprised the market in 2013 with the indication the Fed would end its bond buying. Stocks declined by about just as much as the pullback that occurred earlier in the fall of the past year. And most people don't realize that generally the pullback loss was then recovered fairly fast. So if the history of the taper and the much longer 60-year history of market sentiment is the judge, there are actually more gains to come, potentially across all sectors, styles and sizes of equities in the S&P 500. And one thing to bear in mind is the S&P and Bitcoin are correlated. So if the S&P does in fact continue a run and continue those gains, we should see a very similar effect on Bitcoin. When Bernanke made the comments in 2013, stocks did by about 5.8% in the next month. And for the rest of the year, the market ended up being up 17.5%. That's quite massive. So after a very minor pullback known as the taper tantrum, stocks took off. So we're probably going to see that again. A taper tantrum will occur. We will see some level of stocks taking a dive. And the reason that I'm talking about stocks is Bitcoin and the S&P 500 are correlated. There was a tantrum. It lasted a month, but people make it sound as if there was a near bear market. It ended up being barely a pullback. And that's worthwhile bearing in mind, because March is going to be a rough month. That tapering starts, if that's all confirmed and that begins full on, there is going to be downturn in the market. But if it's reflective of what we've previously seen, we still expect the market to continue to rise. In 60 instances since World War II, when stocks experienced a pullback, the market continued to rise in the next calendar month and did so by an average of 3.3% and was higher 92% of time. That's pretty good. So, and there's another image I want to show you guys actually. So, during a Fed hike period, the average return for the Dow Jones Industrial Average is nearly 55%. That of the S&P 500 is a gain of 62.9%, and the Nasdaq Composite had averaged a positive return of 102.7%. This is during the Fed rate hikes. And you can use data going back to, and they've used data going back to 1989. Fed interest rate cuts, perhaps unsurprisingly, also yield strong gains, of course. So when we look at the actual rate hikes, yeah, there's some downturn. They're not, the rate hike cycle is definitely not as positive as generally as when the rates are cut. But as you can see, the rate hike cycle from 2008 to 2019 returned some very, very good percentages. That's in an 11-year period, so you'd expect to see some pretty good growth in that time frame. But fundamentally, that data, isn't bad. It's not particularly negative. The 1 year cycle when the rate hiked in 97 to 98 had some really good returns on the Nasdaq and the S&P. The 3 year cycle from 2004 to 2007 had really good returns on all three. You bear in mind, if you get 8% across a year on your S&P or whatever, you're doing, or if you get 8% in your stocks across a year, you're doing very well. So these percentages are good returns. And again, the reason I bring this up is correlated with Bitcoin. We don't know how the market's going to react in March, but the expectation is there's going to be a drop. Now the query is you look historically, there's on that first month of the tapering, there's a drop in the market. There's a taper tantrum, but the markets recover and they recover stronger. There are a lot more variables this time than ever before. We've had companies that have somehow grown in value without producing any goods, without doing any manufacturing, because of the the situation with the money printing and the virus and everything else, right? So we do have a belief generally that a lot of the stocks price estimates are overinflated because a lot of them have not done business or spent at least a year out of the last sort of 2.5 not doing business, not doing it or doing it to like 20% of their normal volumes. So there are these variables that we do have to consider. Fed rate, the rate hike combined with the tapering off might have a stronger impact, and along with all the external variables that we've been experiencing. But historically, and that's all you go off of, historically, it might not be as bad as we expect. I'm not saying it's going to be good for March, but I don't think March will be good at all. But, April, May, they might be pretty good. They might be pretty good. If it's just a 1 month tantrum, market could recover pretty well. And it's something to consider. I don't think the narrative is obviously, no, they're hawkish, but even when we've seen them hawkish, and we've seen them do these kind of things, it's only lasted a month historically. And that's what you go off of. After seeing a lot of this, I'm more hopeful that we are in fact going to see a more positive bounce straight off the back in March. However, we watch the charts and you deal with the data. Data drives decision making in those scenarios. But something to consider. Anyway, that's it. Hope you're all keeping well. Hoping that maybe brought some positivity, some hopium, whatever it is, to people this morning. Because at the moment, like I said, we're just seeing sideways action. Is really slow moving the market. But the altcoins have certainly experienced a decent bounce, far more than Bitcoin has. So there's things to be quietly optimistic about. Anyway, that's it. Hope you're all keeping well, and hope you're enjoying your Wednesday morning. If you're new to crypto, come check out Copy My Crypto. It's where I share my portfolio. Like I said, I said this at the beginning, 2021 is awesome. It was absolutely incredible. 2022 will be even better. We're going to see a bear cycle at some point. That's inevitable. We're going to see a bear cycle. Whether it's March, whether it's September, whether it's January of 2023, who knows? But the bear cycle is when you find cryptos that are going to do insane gains. Just insane gains. I'm really excited about the bear cycle. That's the opportunity to change your life. So if you want to be a part of it, I've got a list of coins that I'm watching during when the bear cycle kicks in, and when I think they can do 50, 100x, I'm going to be letting the Copy My Crypto members know, like I did everyone when I thought Phantom would do at least 100x, and I did a whole bloody Udemy course on it. So if you want to be a part of it, check it out. Link is in the description. Bye-bye.